A lot is missing. A lot of... Okay. Right. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. And the people from the Zoom. I can see them too. Could we start this council meeting with the webcast introduction? So if I could ask Gary to do the honours, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The Chairman would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or other such use by third parties. If you are seated in the lower public seating area, it is likely that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. This may infringe your human and data protection rights, and if you wish to avoid this, you should move to the upper gallery, and can also remind members to activate their microphones before they speak and deactivate their microphones after they have finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Item 2, apologies for absence. Jackie, please.
Yes, Chairman. We have apologies from Councillors Cher Bernier, Rolfe, Joggier, Neville, Plummer and Roberts.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? No? Okay. In this case, you did say the Vice Chair was... yes.
It might be relevant. We've just had apologies from Councillor Plummer and I can see him on Zoom.
Yes, he just joined us. You're correct. Okay. I can see him as well. Yeah. Lovely. Okay. We seem to have quite a few people. Maybe they're coming late. Okay. That's fine. No problem. Anything about apologies? Yes, please.
So, sorry, apologies for lateness, Chairman, sorry.
Apologies for lateness for? Oh. Okay. All right.
Can I give apologies for lateness for Councillor Jones, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Jackie, you've noticed that. Lovely. Okay. Right. Sometimes, you know, being a chairman on my own, it can be very lonesome. So today, I would actually like to ask for a vice chair. I would like to ask Councillor Sartin to come as a vice chair. I hope she's an ex-chairman. I hope you do not have any objections to that, and no other nominations? No? Could somebody second this, please? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, item 3, declarations of interest. Any? None. Thank you. Okay, item 4, announcements. Before I tell you a little bit about what I would like to tell you, I would like to give Gary Woodall first. He would like to make an announcement. So about elections, I think.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The question was asked last week about arrangements for the local elections count. We have put an item in the bulletin this week, but the count this year for the 19 or 20 wards that are up for election will be held here at the civic offices. We'll be using the conference suite opened up, as well as the cafe area behind to house the 13 teams. We will have the corporate communications team, televisions and a coffee station in the community hub, and there'll be more information coming forth to people who are up for election or acting as agents nearer the time when you get your invitation ticket. Thank you.
Okay. Well, members, despite the empty chairman's diary in the recent bulletin, I have been really very busy. One event worth mentioning, though, is the Civic Awards afternoon. I wanted to achieve two things. First, that we can actually use our civic offices for hosting events and functions. And second, to welcome the community. And may I extend my thanks to the officers and ground staff who made this a reality. We had such positive comments, and obviously it was a success. So I'm very pleased about that. And the flowers, I think, should remain in the civic offices for the community, downstairs. It is so nice for residents to come in and see the flowers. Item 5, public questions. We do have a public question by Mr. Searle. Now, unfortunately, he's sent his question. He's not present. So I will ask Gary again to read his question, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Public question from Mr. Searle. I'd like to bring to the attention of the Council that an unknown number of manholes situated on public land in Waltham Abbey are not being inspected or maintained by anyone. Thames Water, Essex County Council Highways and Epping Forest District Council have all stated that it is not their responsibility to inspect and maintain these manholes. This is a real problem because a number are damaged and hazardous and have been for some time. It's insufficient for the Council to say action will be taken once it's made aware of a problem, because by then somebody may have already been injured, as demonstrated when a grandmother out walking her dogs suffered severe leg injuries after falling down one of these neglected and defective manholes. Councillor Steve Heather, who was contacted last July regarding this matter, stated after receiving photographic and video evidence of damaged manholes that, and I quote, "This is a very serious ongoing problem," unquote, and, quote, "They are death traps in waiting," unquote. Somebody needs to take responsibility, because I'm sure nobody disagrees that the health and safety of everyone in Waltham Abbey is paramount, and that some system of inspection and maintenance should be in place to prevent further accidents occurring. Will the Council please be proactive rather than reactive and endeavour to find a solution to this very serious issue?
Thank you very much. I think Councillor Avey will actually give the answer.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to Mr. Searle for that question. In answer, manholes can be owned by several different companies on both private and public land. Thames Water, Essex Highways, or even BT Utilities. It is not a function of EFDC to inspect the statutory sewerage undertaker's assets. Thames Water are responsible for their assets, and Essex Highways are responsible for the safety of the highway as the highway authority. Highway rights take precedent over ownership in most instances. The majority of non-highway adopted public land areas in Waltham Abbey tend to be, but not exclusively, fall within housing's overall estate management responsibilities and are working towards an inspection regime including manhole covers once a year. If locations of defective covers can be provided, responsibility for them can be investigated and the appropriate agency informed. And I can confirm some information will be sent to Mr. Searle in this regard, including details of the Essex Highway online reporting tool. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, item 6, questions by members under notice. We have.
There are none, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 7, reports from the leader and members of the cabinet. The leader, Councillor Whitbread, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, can I start by congratulating yourself on the use of this building for your Civic Awards afternoon. I thought it was a great demonstration of versatility of this building. And if you look at the other uses it's had recently, the Ukrainian Collection Hub, I think the opening of the Regis floor at the top, on the top of the building, and indeed the actual use of the hub by officers and members now, I think is starting to show its worth to us, and we look forward to advancing with regards to the remaining space downstairs shortly. But I just thought it's worth highlighting to members that the hub has become a really versatile, useful space for the district as a whole. So I think that's a good news story to start with. And of course, your brilliant afternoon represented why it's so useful to us. And of course, Regis opening on the top floor, which we had the opportunity to attend the opening, has shown actually how we're going to bring our high streets back to life with new people coming in for the future. And it was interesting to see the mix of people using the Regis space upstairs. So I think that's another good news story. Members, over the past couple of weeks, I've been meeting with leaders from other districts, including Harlow, Broxbourne and East Herts. Some to do with the Harlow Garden Town project and how that's progressing, but also to look at opportunities for the future. And we look forward to taking those forward in the weeks ahead, because what we're looking for is to maximise opportunities in cooperation with other nearby authorities in order to actually drive further benefits to our residents here in Epping Forest, and there will be opportunities coming ahead. So that's something that we've been working on very, very carefully. And like yourself, Chairman, one of the things I've been able to more recently is actually get out and about to other parts of our district, and it was with pleasure that I met with Councillor Kesker on Sunday down at the Ongar Farmers Market run by the Ongar Forum, one of our most successful business groupings locally, and to have some discussions around what's going on in Ongar as well. So I think that was really useful to me, and it's great to actually be out there again visiting our communities. So as we open up and we move forward from the pandemic and to brighter, better times hopefully ahead, we are pleased to be out there again and actually meeting people and helping to shape the community's future. Thank you.
Before I go to reports of the Cabinet, may I welcome Councillor Whitehouse? And can I ask you, do you have a declaration of interest?
No, I don't think so, Chairman. I apologise for lateness.
Thank you. Okay. Any members of the Cabinet have anything to add to their reports? I understand that Councillor Holly Whitbread would like to add to her report.
Thank you, Chairman. I was going to add just a bit more detail about the collection hub, but I think the leader covered most of it in his report, so I won't say anything at this stage. Thank you.
Okay. No one else? Okay. Any questions on any of the reports? Yes, Councillor Pond.
Chairman, I had a matter which has arisen only today and yesterday to Councillor Sam Kane.
Okay.
And that is that in his reports on page 15 and 17, there are two separate mentions of the new car parking tariff. Now, I for one agree that the car parking tariffs needed revising upwards. But what I don't find so acceptable, and my constituents don't find so acceptable, is the changing in time, particularly in relation to the Traps Hill car park, where charging now starts at 8 a.m. And the reason for that is there was a special arrangement entered with Councillor Waller when he was portfolio holder to enable Traps Hill car park to be used as a starting point for the Staples Road School walking bus, which of course takes place in the morning at about 8:30, 9 o'clock. And also many of the users of the leisure centre, an EFDC's own facility, are aggrieved at the bringing forward of the time. So my question to Councillor Kane is, would he reconsider this start time for the charging regime? It does seem to have been done without much consultation. I think I might have noticed a standardisation being mentioned, but not that.
Okay. Councillor Sam Kane.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question. Yes, I received the emails as well. It's very unfortunate that this wasn't picked up in Stronger Place, nor in Kennet, and there was quite clearly an approach to standardise our hours of operation. It has to be said that we can take it under review, particularly in mind of the walking bus. I wasn't aware of the walking bus running from there. But I have to be very careful because making exceptions for one opens the gates for making exceptions to other. But I will take it under review and respond to Councillor Pond at a later date.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Lyon.
Thank you, Chairman. It's not a question, but it refers to Councillor Patel's report on Limes Farm. I am a regular attender at the community cafe there and was also participating in the tree planting sessions where 500 trees were planted. And I applaud both Councillor Patel and the Council for their active engagement on Limes Farm and the support that's actually being given to the residents. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Councillor John Whitehouse.
Thanks, Chairman. This is a question for, I think, Councillor Avey relating to electric car charging points. I note the new ones recently introduced at Oakwood Hill, which means that I think at least 2 car parks in Loughton now have electric charging. The situation isn't quite the same in lots of the other bits of the district. I just wonder if you have an update on what the programme is for rolling out charging to other parts of the district, and in particular sort of update on discussions with the County Council about on-street charging, because obviously a certain proportion of residents don't have drives and need access to on-street charging. Thanks.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Whitehouse. I will get back to you with further details of that. I'm afraid I don't have the details to hand with me. Clearly, it's really important we roll out these electric charging sites as quickly as possible over the district. I noticed Tesco's in Epping are putting electric charging in as well, so hopefully both in the public and the private realm we'll get some coverage across the district as quickly as possible, but I will come back to you on this issue.
Councillor Lee or
Chairman.
Councillor Lyon?
Chairman, Chairman, can I point of clarification?
Yes.
I'm confused. Which item are we under? Questions directly on the reports,
On the reports.
or the opening questions?
No, it is on the reports only. Yeah. So if you have anything on the reports only, then please. Otherwise, keep the questions for later on. Yeah? Okay. Right. Item 8, questions by members without notice. Again, I have to thank everyone who volunteered their names, because it does give me a good idea how long we actually have and how long we can spend, for the questions. We have usually half an hour anyway, so we keep to that. We don't have that many people that would like to ask questions, so that's good. But I will start with Councillor Murray.
That's come as a bit of surprise. Okay, my question is to Councillor Patel, Community and Regulatory Services Portfolio Holder. And it's to do with a press release issued on the 21st of March, which I was delighted to read. And it was issued on Facebook about the grant aid this year to 30 community groups. And Councillor Patel said in a YouTube video and in the press release, I'm delighted to have approved £85,000 worth of grant aid application. And this is the key sentence that's provoked the question. The Council recognises the significant impact that our amazing local community and voluntary sector groups have in terms of supporting the positive health and well-being of our residents. And I certainly say amen to that. So my question is, why did he feel able, because I don't think we've had an explanation either verbally or in written form, and I apologise if I've missed it, but I've looked really carefully for it. Why did he feel able to put forward and be part of a leadership budget that consisted of 147 pages and tucked away on a single page, on page 105. So out of 147 pages, there was one line in the budget that showed the grants to voluntary organisations in the new financial year has been cut by over 50%. So I do think it's important, bearing in mind the fine words he said about this year, which I 100% agree with. Why was he able to go along with a budget that cut it by 50%? And I apologise in advance if I've missed it, but not explain to us as members why, as the portfolio holder, he was able to accept that. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I think for this, the answer is better to be answered by the portfolio holder of the finance. So I will say John Philip, Councillor Philip, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Murray, for that question. It's a simple answer, actually. We have a fixed pot of money to spend on the things that we need to do. We were facing distinctly difficult choices between grant aid and services we provide. If we put more money in the grant aid, we would have had to cut services. I didn't hear Councillor Murray in the budget debate suggesting that we cut services. I really don't want to cut services. We have, as I said at the budget, a very, very tough year next year. We're aiming to come in under budget, and if that means that we can be more generous with grants in the following year, then that is something that we can certainly look at. But to do that, we're going to have to hit significant savings through this coming year. I want to do that without cutting any of the frontline services that we need to deliver to our residents. But we have a fixed budget. We are very tight, and I know the leader wearing his hat as finance portfolio holder for county has already seen the impact of the significant increase in inflation that's having on the costs. That has a roll-on effect into the district budget as well. It will make it significantly more difficult than it would be. We simply didn't have any more money.
Chairman, I don't want to be awkward. I thank very much for that answer, and I can be very polite, and thank you. But I was quite specific which portfolio holder I asked my question to. And with the greatest respect to you, and I have an immense respect to you, I don't think it's up to the chair or the cabinet to decide who answers the question. I was very clear who I asked the question to, and it was in relationship. I wouldn't have asked the question if we hadn't had that glowing press release, half the story in other words. So I was very clear who I asked the question to, and I would like the portfolio holder to have an opportunity to answer it. If he feels he doesn't want to, that's fine, but that was who I asked the question to.
Chairman, Councillor Murray asked a question about the budget. The budget is something that we bring forward as a cabinet. There are trade-offs within it, but we have a corporate responsibility when we bring that budget forward. The budget comes under my portfolio, and I'm responsible in the end for balancing it out. It's great that we have been able to do stuff this year with our grants budget. We will still be able to do significant things next year. We're still funding, for example, the Citizens Advice Bureau, which is a key part at the moment. It is in there. We had to balance the overall items, and it is quite right to say that the things we've been able to do in the last financial year, and we are now in a new financial year, but in the last financial year, it's certainly worth celebrating them, and I know you celebrated several things at your Civic Awards, which unfortunately I was not able to come to.
Chairman, sorry, I will just have one more go. Is the portfolio holder I asked saying that he's unprepared to answer the question, or is he happy that the finance portfolio holder has answered the question? I didn't expect this at all. I thought it was a reasonable question to the correct portfolio holder.
I was going to ask Councillor Patel if he would like to add to that.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for the question, Councillor Murray. But as has already been stated by Councillor Philip, it is a budget-related question, and he's given a full and comprehensive answer to the question you've asked.
Okay. Continue. Councillor Brooks.
I'm asking this on behalf of the people we represent, and this isn't just in Loughton, it's much of the south of the district uses the leisure centre. There was a substantial increase in the fees for leisure centre members. These have been held back for 2 years, so most of us don't question the fact they had to increase. But what has very much affected many of the residents is that yet again, swimming, adult lane swimming is much reduced, Councillor Avey, for the Easter holidays. And I wondered, after what happened last summer, if you would investigate and talk to Places Leisure about it.
Councillor Avey?
Thank you, Councillor Brooks, for that question. I'll be happy to take that up with Places for Leisure. And obviously we at the Leisure Management Board discussed the fee increase. Yeah. It's an unfortunate fact of life at the moment. We have to have fee increases. And obviously there is still, I think, some management to be done on usage between various groups at Loughton Leisure Centre. So I accept your point and I will take it up with officers and Places for Leisure.
Councillor Paul Stoker.
Thank you, Chairman. Another question for Councillor Avey, I'm afraid. I've recently received some very positive feedback from residents about the service provided by the Highway Rangers, and it got me thinking whether it was time for Councillor Avey perhaps to give an update on the current status and activities of the Highway Rangers.
Thank you for that question. I'm sorry, I seem to be hogging the microphone at the moment. The Highway Rangers does continue to be a very successful initiative, which we should all be very pleased with. As noted in my report, the Highway Rangers have taken a number of recent projects, including district-wide roadside cleaning and repair, assisting with the removal of trees off the highways during recent storms, and providing traffic management for other teams. A new full-time ranger has recently been recruited, which brings the team up to full strength. I'm hoping in the future we will be able to expand the services that Highway Rangers provide, and they will continue, I hope, to bring excellent service to the residents and the district. Thank you.
Councillor Alan Lyon.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a question for Councillor Phillip, Finance and Economic Development Portfolio Holder. As we emerge from the pandemic and we understand the pressures facing many families as global inflation levels increase, can Councillor Phillip say how the £150 that the government have allocated to council taxpayers is going to be developed and managed in Epping Forest for the benefit of our residents? Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Lyon. Yes, this is a really good news story. We have been awarded money by the government for this £150 towards the cost of living. In total, we have received just shy of 4.8 million, which equates to about 32,000 houses within the district who pay council tax. For those council taxpayers that pay by direct debit, we already have their bank accounts and details, and that will automatically be paid into those bank accounts by the end of April. For those who do not pay by direct debit, we will be writing out to those people, asking them to apply for the £150 grant, and obviously providing us with payment details so that we can make those payments. That will have to be done by September. I mean, it's a good way away, and I would hope that people with the option of getting £150 will be keen to take that up. This £150 applies to those who have council tax bands of A to D. For those who are challenged with dwellings that are sitting above that, then we have a discretionary fund. It's a much smaller discretionary fund, but that will be done by application. So it's people, for example, who might be property rich but poor in terms of income, they will be able to apply for a grant. That grant will not exceed £150, but our total for that is somewhat less than 400,000, so it's significantly smaller. But all in all, we want to be able to do with this £150 much the same as we did back at the beginning of COVID, which is get it out quickly to the people who need it. So if there are people out there that don't pay by direct debit, do get back in touch with us, do respond to us when we write out, and we will do our best to get that money to you as quickly as possible.
Okay, continue. Councillor Heap, Simon Heap.
Thank you, Chairman. Recently, some of us, many of us, in fact, probably all of us, have been made aware of a meeting between senior, this is for the planning portfolio holder, between senior planning officials and Conservative members of the district to discuss an application by a Conservative parish member in Buckhurst Hill, 8 days prior to that meeting being heard. How common is this practice, and does the portfolio holder think it sends out the right signal in terms of fairness and justice?
Councillor Bedford.
Thank you. As this matter has been investigated by EDFDC officers, there's no further comment at this stage. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Stoker.
Thank you, Chairman.
Excuse me. Sorry. 1 second. Councillor Whitbread. Sorry.
Yes, sorry, Chairman. My colleague is quite correct, but I think we should be very clear about this. In fact, no, this is not outside of a normal process, and the actual meeting was to discuss a planning process, not a planning application. And I think it's actually quite outrageous that Councillor Heap has made that question this evening. I won't say any more about the actual complaint. I think in that case that Councillor Bedford is quite correct, but actually I think Councillor Heap is out of order in asking that question.
Councillor Stoker.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is to Councillor Holly Whitbread, portfolio holder for housing. Can she confirm to us that the houses that become available will be made for local residents and not outside the area, those that are on the waiting list?
Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Stocker, for that question. And I think it's a really important question, actually. It was in my report, but an opportunity to highlight the housing policies which we passed at the recent Cabinet meeting, which did reinforce our commitment that local residents come first. So in order to be on our housing list, you have to have lived in the district for at least 7 years. So I hope that gives you a bit of assurance. And some good news is that last month, a number of different units in Waltham Abbey were handed over to new Epping Forest tenants. And there's some more coming this month as well. So that's Beach Walk in Waltham Abbey. So good news and a lot of progress. I emailed the housing team this morning to see the handover list. And we've got a huge list of properties being delivered as part of Phase 4. So thank you.
Councillor John Whitehouse.
Oh, sorry.
So I've asked my question, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Bolton. Peter Bolton.
Thank you. My question is to Councillor Holly Whitbread. It's to do with the police hub. One technical point in her report, she says that 2 police officers are joining. Presumably these are on rotation and not new. The other is that there have been reports of antisocial behaviour within South Wheel, but surely other wards as well. And is she happy that the police hub is able to target these problems and deal with them efficiently? Thank you.
Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Bolton, for that question. And in relation to the specific point within the report, Epping Forest District Council, originally we had a service level agreement with Essex Police to hire 3 police officers who work exclusively within Epping Forest District. Because we've got such a good relationship with Essex Police, they've actually given us a free officer, which is really good news. So we actually have 4 Essex Police officers working from our policing hub, which is great. And the 2 new officers are to replace 2 vacancies. So there was a short period where there were vacancies which have now been fully filled. In relation to specific targets for antisocial behaviour, and I know in your ward in North Weald there's a particular issue in Blenheim Square, we work really closely in partnership with Essex Police as well as our Community Safety and Resilience here at the District Council to do targeted patrols. I know there's an ongoing situation there and we continue in ongoing conversations, but what I would say is if members do have antisocial behaviour issues within their wards, do get in touch with the Community Resilience team. They do a really good job at targeted patrols and targeted work. Also at Blenheim Square, there's particular work with the youth, with some one-on-one work with the specific offenders, and also with the use of our roving CCTV to try and alleviate the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor David Wixley.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I couldn't give the advance warning of this question because it's a result of a very angry phone call that I received today. So to help me in this bit of a problem, I addressed the question to Councillor Nigel Avey, the Environment and Technical Services portfolio holder. And the angry phone call was about weed spraying, or as some people would say, wildflower spraying. So this particular resident was very angry because it occurs this time of the year, and there's a sort of a scorched earth policy around the base of trees and along verges. And so his question is, why is it necessary? Which chemical is used? Is the chemical entirely harmless? And is particularly concerned about the effect on potential wildflowers and also insects. Now, I don't expect the portfolio to be able to give an answer to that right now, but if he could, if he could look into that and perhaps come back to me, or it may be of wider interest, put something in the bulletin, and that might get me off the hook. And I would appreciate that if he could do it.
Councillor Ivey.
Thank you so much for that question. Well, we get into trouble if we don't spray enough, and we get into trouble if we do spray. It's a difficult life, isn't it? I will get that technical information. I have seen it before, actually, and I've discussed it with officers because it's been raised, and I think there are European standards we used to have to meet. So they've been replicated now nationally. So I maybe put that information in the bulletin for the benefit of all members.
Thank you. Councillor Ken Williamson.
Thank you, Chair. It's another question for the portfolio holder for housing, I'm afraid. Could you please inform the members about the Council's tree planting scheme on council-owned estates? Thank you.
Councillor Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. Me and Councillor Avey are doing a bit of a double act this evening. Thank you for that question, Councillor Williamson. Actually, it was in Councillor Patel's report, but does belong in my portfolio. Should have read your report. So just to say, this tree planting programme is a result of a grant from the Forestry Commission, where we've got grant funding for 2,500 trees across the district on our council-owned estates. And there's a long conversation with LRA councillors, including Councillor Wixley, as to where these trees would go. A couple of weeks ago, 500 were planted in Limes Farm with the help of Alan Lyon, who was ably digging some holes and filling them, which was good, what we like to see. And numerous other trees are going to be planted across our Debden and Loughton estates. Thank you.
Councillor Ginny Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is about the electric charging points. Only recently, I went on a holiday with a friend in an electric car, and only one electric charging point worked, and we ended up coming back on the AA lorry in this brand new car. Everywhere, I didn't find it funny, but anyway, the point is, everywhere we stopped, you don't know if they're working or not until you've used their app. Now, personally, I wouldn't even know how to put an app on my phone. So after half an hour of putting an app on your phone, you then try to use it, and it's not working. So we went round, 4 out of 5 weren't working. The one on the motorway, the garage there, was 4 points, not one working, and at the services they said they hadn't worked for 4 or 5 months. So they're not being serviced, they're not working. Even the one in Waltham Abbey in Liddles hasn't worked for months. My question is, the ones we're putting in the car parks, Are they ones that, oh, you've got to mess around putting an app, or are they that you can just put your card in and pay for it? Because at the moment, I don't think it's viable having an electric car. So I would like someone to answer, are they going to be ones that don't have a special app? Are they going to be ones like when you go in the petrol station, you can just pay by card? So if someone could answer that, thank you.
Okay. Who would like to answer this? Councillor Avey.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Lee. And you've summed up why I am worried about electric vehicles. In fact, I don't own an electric vehicle because of the horror stories. And, of course, the multiplicity of companies around the country that provide these charging points. And if you're doing a long journey, the last thing you want on a rainy night on the M4 is to find you can't actually charge your vehicle up and you're stuck in services for the rest of the night. I will check to see what the ones we are putting in. I suspect there will be an app attached to them, I'm afraid, because that's the way of the world at the moment. But certainly we should look as a council to make sure we have the most efficient system by the best provider. And obviously I'll provide details of that.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you, members. Thank you very much. We go to motions. Item 9. No motions?
No motions, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, so item 10, reports of the Cabinet, anti-fraud and corruption strategy, pages 41 to 72. Councillor Hadley.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. On the 22nd of November, the draft anti-fraud and corruption strategy paper was presented to the A&G committee for approval. At that meeting, it was scrutinised and approved and prepared to refer to this meeting for approval. As you would expect, there's not a lot changed on this because it's a pretty robust document anyway. But there are 4 items, which I'll just go through quickly, which strengthen what there is already on the paper. In the key fraud and corporate risk area, there's the HR-related fraud, which sort of thing it is somebody might falsify their qualifications on a job application or their previous role, etc. Minor thing, possibly, but worth putting in there. Then under the role of the corporate fraud team, if there's enough reason for a criminal prosecution, then the team will not only look at the policies, our own policies for that, but also the policies for the prosecution code policies. Another one is to fully utilise any method of cost recovery that are available to us, so we're getting as much back after fraud as we can. The last one, responsibilities. The managers should take full responsibility and accountability for fraud in their area. And we're not saying they don't at the moment, but it's just added to the narrative. Okay, so that's all I've got to say on that, other than I recommend this paper to the Council and would like you to approve it. Thank you.
Right, we've got a question. Councillor Murray.
Yeah, I've got just a couple of points, please. Just before I speak on this, members might be interested in an update on Councillor Lee's journey. She assures me that the AA man was a very nice man and he had a really enjoyable journey back with Councillor Lee and her friend. Seriously, I tried to understand this and I think I understood it as much as anyone without a business background could. But because we're very keen on moving as much as we can, as fast as we can, over to Qualis, and I'm surprised we haven't moved some councillors over, but I'm not volunteering to go. Does this apply to Qualis as well, or does Qualis have to have their own anti-fraud and corruption strategy, or would this apply to Qualis, and would we expect them to follow this, Chairman?
Councillor Hadley.
As far as I understand it, Councillor Murray, this applies to EFDC. Qualis is a separate company.
We are, through you, Chairman, we are the only shareholder, aren't we?
Chairman, if I
Councillor
can,
Philip?
as wearing my hat as Collis customer side, Councillor Murray. Yes, Collis does have its own policy on this one. It has been reported. I think I reported actually in the annual report of Collis last time about the governance that was in place, and all these policies are in place and are regularly monitored to make sure that they're compliant with it. Being a private company, their drivers are slightly different from being a council, and that's why they require a different one, because there's different standards that need to be held, because they are effectively a government-owned entity in terms of the Bribery and Corruption Act, so you need to make sure that's correct.
Okay, right, I don't see any hands. Okay, so members, can we actually approve this report for that the anti-fraud and corruption strategy is approved? Agreed, thank you. So this strategy has been approved. Item 11, Constitution Working Group Report, pages 73 to 80. Councillor Sherry Rackham, she's actually absent, so I will ask Councillor Philip to take this report, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Hopefully this is a relatively straightforward one. This is something that came to the Constitution Committee looking at the terms of full council and what they actually had responsibility for in terms of adopting. We went through the significant list of plans and policies that the Constitution made the responsibility of the council. We found that the vast majority of them either no longer existed or no longer needed or were replaced by something called something slightly different. We took time to look through each one of them. We cut out the ones that we don't have and don't need to have. We've changed the names of the ones that have changed names. So I urge councillors just to support this, because the details on page 77 in Article 4, number 1, point C, call it out in terms of bold and straight through of what the changes are. I think it's a logical thing for the council to be limited to that.
Right, Councillor Murray.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I do wish to speak on this, and it isn't because it might be the last time I ever speak in this chamber, because I might not be back in May. But I do have some serious points to make, because I don't think I've got enough information here to make a judgment. So if we look at Appendix 1, community plan strategy is going to be removed from being reported to council. Well, I would have thought the community plan strategy is quite important, and that shouldn't be removed. Economic development strategy, we're being asked that to be removed, so it goes to scrutiny committee, then to cabinet. Well, I wouldn't have thought there was anything more important than economic development being reported to full council and all councillors having a chance to debate that as a member of the debating group. You know, that is absolutely key to this district. Local transport plan, that doesn't come as any surprise to me that there's no direct evidence of adoption by the full council, because it's quite clear to anyone who wants to use buses in this area that we don't have a plan. So I'm not sure that we should remove it, but I wasn't at all surprised to read that there was no direct evidence of adoption by the full council, because, as I say, public transport in this area is not good, to say the least. And then the one I probably feel the most strongly about, though actually I feel strongly about all the 4 points I'm making, is social inclusion strategy. We've had no direct evidence of adoption by full council recently, so we therefore remove it. Well, I think social inclusion strategy is absolutely crucial. And let me just give you some evidence from today that actually shows why social inclusion is so important, that we have a strategy that goes to council. And I think members will celebrate this, though they will be sad to know this. Our own food bank that we have an agreement with operated the food in school holidays meals. It's called Fish for short. And yesterday and today, over 73 families had been referred to them by the primary schools, feeding over 304 people through the school holidays, and that's through our own food bank. You talk to any youth worker, you talk to any teacher, particularly in the primary school sector, and they will tell you that social exclusion and therefore social inclusion in Epping Forest is really, really important, and social exclusion is a growing problem, not a diminishing problem, sadly. So I really don't think we should be removing it. It's something that should very much be part of the full council agenda when it's relevant to be. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Councillor Murray, and you won't be surprised that I would support your option of this being the last time you spoke in the chamber, if that's the level. And it's really unfortunate, actually, that Councillor Murray chooses not to come along to Constitution Committee, where we discuss this in great depth. I should start with the last one that he was talking about, the one that he said was most important to him. There's a reference to it in 2008. Now, I may be the finance portfolio holder, but I can still count. That's 14 years ago. If that's the last time that we had a reference to a social inclusion strategy, clearly this council doesn't consider that it's something that we need to have as a strategy adopted by council. Otherwise, that would have come forward before now. Given that we haven't got one, given that we haven't had one for 14 years, given that there is currently no plans to produce one, it makes no sense to have the council being the body which that should come to. The same could be said of the other areas that he went through. There are areas with economic development strategy. I mean, let's bear in mind the economic development department within this council is 3.5 people. 3.5 people is less than 1% of the FTE equivalent in this council. That doesn't make sense to come to council. We are working at economic development. We looked at town centres. We did a piece of work, brought in a town centre project manager. We worked with parish and town councils to drive things forward for economic development there. That clearly has not been successful from the parish and town council's point of view, so that is something that we need to look at. But that doesn't fit in with the economic development strategy. What we did in the Constitution Group was to work through the various things that were on this list, decide whether we had them, whether we needed them, whether there were any plans to bring them forward, and when there wasn't, that's when we removed them. If it was things that deserved to stay on, we kept them on, and we discussed it in depth at the Constitution Committee, and that, I think, is the right place for us to have done that.
Councillor Murray, would you like to come back or no?
No, I've made my points, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Pond.
Thank you. Yes, well now the local transport plan, I spent many happy hours at County Hall discussing in 2011. The local transport plan is a responsibility of upper tier authorities. Don't know why it found its way into our list. I do share some of the issues which Councillor Murray raised. We do need a local transport plan, but I'm afraid it's down for the to Essex County Council to reinitiate it, and I gather it is going to be reinitiated in the next few months. The only other thing is I would point out in Appendix 2, halfway down the page, I think you need the word statute and not statue. The mind boggles.
Yes.
Thank you.
Chairman, while I appreciate the idea of a statute requiring something, I think Councillor Pond is quite right that that is statute, not statute. Yes. It's an interesting picture to conjure with, I have to say.
Yes, we will make the amendment. Councillor McIver.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to make a quick point on this particular matter, which is that, of course, most of the matters that we discussed at this particular meeting of the Constitution Working Group, many of the subjects are very much featured across all of our scrutiny committees, where, of course, many members have the opportunity to raise them and scrutinise them. And, of course, they very regularly appear in Cabinet member reports, some of these matters, which, of course, at full council meetings all members are well within their rights to ask questions on any specific reports and strategies. And should there be a situation where a member has a specific concern, I think it was agreed, particularly at the meeting as well, that a member is more than able to meet with officers or cabinet members at any time to discuss those matters. So I think just as a point of sort of clarification, these matters will always be discussed and will always have an opportunity to be held to account at full council if an individual member would like to.
Thank you. Councillor Janet Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. I was at the Constitution Working Group, and I can't actually remember a great deal of discussion about the social inclusion strategy. We had one, because I remember some discussion about it, and it's unfortunate it never got as far as full council. Listening to what Councillor Murray says, I don't think we should just abandon it. I think we need a social inclusion strategy. There are a lot of people feeling excluded at the moment, and maybe we should be looking to work again on a social inclusion strategy and have one that comes right through to council so that we adopt one.
Councillor Philip.
Chairman, the fact is that we do not have a social inclusion strategy. We have no plans to create one. It's not been something that's been identified in terms of the work programme of overview and scrutiny. It's not something that's been identified as a key decision for the Cabinet to look at going forward. There are no plans to have it. Given that there is no plans to have it, then it doesn't fit within the role of the council to be looking at. If we get to the point where going down the route, we need to have something that fits in that, we will go through a process of identifying where it needs to come from, where it needs to be diverted through. We would be certainly putting it through scrutiny before we get it anywhere. And as such, we can then decide whether, given if we have one, it would be appropriate for it to come to council. It may then be council's decision that going forward we need to keep that up to date. But I'd make the point again, we haven't needed it, we haven't discussed it at council since 2008, which is 14 years ago. It's clearly not something that this council has deemed to be important. That was part of the discussion that we had at Constitution. I'm sorry that Councillor Whitehouse doesn't remember that, but we went through not having it and why not having it for that period of time meant that it's not something that's appropriate to sit in the Constitution. If we get to the point where we have something that needs to be considered and approved by Council, then we can add things to the Constitution.
Councillor Pond.
Yeah, sorry for another bite of the cherry, Chairman. This is another matter. As of 6 minutes ago, we now have an anti-fraud and corruption strategy, which we have just adopted. So should that not be added to the list in Appendix 2?
Councillor Philip.
Chairman, if Councillor Pond is suggesting that we add it, then I'm perfectly happy to add that, given that we have just adopted it. I would be happy to add that strategy to the things that the Council adopts. And I think it's important because it is key for us as a council to be clear that we are anti-fraud and corruption and that it's something that we do consider. I will take it on advisement in the future from the Audit and Governance Committee about how frequently they want to review it and bring it back to Council. But we should add that to something that, as Council will approve, and we will get Audit and Governance to look at how often they think it should come back to Council.
Yes, thank you. I think that is the appropriate way, to be honest. Okay, so, members, can we agree the recommendations? Would you like to show hands, please? To agree, well, I don't think that anybody would agree, so let's just show hands, if that's all right. Can we agree the recommendations of the report, please?
(32), Chairman.
Thank you. Any against?
2, Chairman.
Thank you. Any abstentions?
None, Chairman.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So the Constitution Working Group report has been agreed. Item 12, joint arrangements and external organisations. Just to give you an update that the Royal Gunpowder Mills is opening at Easter Sunday, 17th of April. So, and it was well received by the press as well, so hopefully we'll make a point of visiting the premises and fire some rockets as well, as they suggest. Any other external organisations, reports? No. Okay. Item 13, exclusion of public and press. So, members, I'm closing the meeting at exactly 8 o'clock. Thank you very much for your presence.
Thank you. Good night.